Hi, everybody. What I'm going to do for you is I've heard some people have been struggling with factoring by grouping. I know we practiced this for about 2 weeks before we left school, but some of us need a refresher. So I'm going to go through several examples for you. So first thing I got is an example of x squared plus 8x minus 1. Remember, we need to go ahead and put a 1 if there's not a number in front of the x squared. The next thing we're going to do is we always multiply the first number times the last. So 1 times 20 makes 20. Now, remember, this 20 is actually a negative 20. So when I think about it being a negative, that means I must have a positive and a negative. Next, I want to go ahead and think about all the ways I can multiply to get 20. So the numbers I think of are 1 times 20. I think next of 2 times 10. And my last group of factors are 4 times 5. Now, remember, we said this has to be a positive and a negative. So I go over here and I look right here in the middle. I notice my middle is a positive. That means the big number has to be the positive and the small number has to be the negative. So I go over here back to my picture and make all of my small numbers on the left a negative. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and add up. So negative 1 plus 20 makes positive 19. Negative 2 plus 10 is going to make positive 8. And negative 4 plus 5 is going to make 1. Which one of these adds up to be the 8 in the middle of my original problem? That's right, the negative 2 and the 10. So at this point, I'm going to go back over to my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and write it all out. Now remember, we keep the 1x squared in the front. We keep the negative 20 in the back. But that positive 8x, we rewrite with those two new factors that we found. Negative 2x plus 10. Because when we put those together, that's 10x, I apologize, that actually makes the middle term 8x. So at this point, for what we learned in class, for what we were going to do, is we go ahead and break up our 4 factors into groups of 2. And I make a nice little T-chart. From this T-chart, I'm going to go to the left-hand side. What is the greatest common factor between 1 and negative 2? It is 1. How many x's do the x squared and the negative 2x have in common? Only an x. I go to the right-hand side. I see positive 10x minus 20. What's the greatest common factor between the 10 and negative 20? That is going to be a 10. They do not have any x's in common because the negative 20 does not have an x. Now, at this point, I'm going to go down and start making my 2 sets of parentheses. I apologize, I'm sort of running out of space on my screen. So I'm going to go ahead and take my GCFs, the 1x and the 10, and go ahead and put them in the very first set of parentheses. That's half my answer. Now I go back to the left and I start dividing. 1 divided by 1 is going to be 1. How many x's would be left over? Well, I know x squared, and I know this one is x to the 1. So if I do x squared, take away x1, I'm left with just 1x. Now I need to divide the next part, which is negative 2x divided by 1x. That's going to leave me with negative 2. There are no x's left over because an x1, take away an x1 leaves you with 0. Check your work on the right-hand side. 10 divided by 10 still makes 1 with an x left over, and negative 20 divided by 10 still makes negative 2. You just factored your first one. So now I'm going to wipe my screen clear so I can do another example where the leading coefficient is greater than 1. Give me just a second. Haven't quite figured out this online yet, so it will just take me a moment to wipe my screen clear. All right, so my screen is clear. I'm going to go ahead and take the title off as well so I have a little extra space at the bottom. Here's your next example. The next example for us is going to be 6x squared minus 13x minus 5. I have a number in the front, so now we're going to go ahead and do the first number times the last number. That gives me negative 30. We'll put that over here in my little t-chart. Now you know, if it's a negative 30, that means I've got to have a positive and a negative. We'll figure that out in a second. I start writing all the factors down for 30. I know that's 1 times 30. That's going to be 2 times 15. I know the next is 3 times 10. 4 will not go into 30, but 5 will. 5 times 6. That's all my factors of 30. Now remember, we know it's a positive negative. So I go back and I look at the middle term right there. It's a negative. That means my big number has to be negative. So all my big numbers are going to get a little negative sign now. So at this point, my job is to go and add up my factors. I'm going to switch out, go ahead and start writing over here. So if I add these two up, I get negative 29. Add the next two up, I get negative 13. Add the next two factors, I got negative 7. Next two factors, add them up, negative 1. So which two factors add up to give me the middle number of negative 13? That's going to be the 2 and the negative 15. So I'll circle those. I'm going to go over here and write that. Remember, I write the first number, keep it the same. Keep my back number exactly the same. But my negative 13 is now going to become positive 2x minus 15x. Together, they will make the value negative 13x in the original problem. Let's go ahead and separate. Remember, we group by 2's. Separate and make another t-chart. Now I'm ready to GCF. On the left-hand side, the GCF between 6 and 2 is the number 2. They do have an x in common, only 1. I go back to the right-hand side. Now I notice that leading number is negative, so I am going to pull out a negative this time. If the leading number was a positive on the right-hand side, I leave it a positive. But the first GCF between negative 15 and negative 5 is going to be negative 5. There are no x's in common because a negative 5 at the end does not have an x. I go ahead straight down here. Go ahead and draw my 2 parentheses. The GCF numbers become the first part of my answer. And now I'm ready to divide. Go to the left-hand side. 6 divided by 2 makes 3. The x2, take away x1, leaves me with an x. Then I'm divide again. 2 divided by 2 makes positive 1, and there would be no x's left over. x1, take away x1 is 0. Check yourself on the right-hand side. Negative 15 divided by negative 5 is positive 3 with an x left over, and negative 5 divided by negative 5 is a positive 1. Check. You've just factored with a number in front of the x squared that's greater than 1. Let's try another one. This is one of those that we did the Friday before we left school. It's a special case, so let me go ahead and delete my screen again for you. I apologize. Hopefully next time I do a video, I can find a quicker way to delete my screen. It will take just a couple seconds. Almost there. So this next one is going to be what we call a special case. It's going to be missing a middle term. So let me show you what this one looks like. This next one is going to be 4x squared minus 25. Notice it's missing the middle term. So what I told you to do before we left school was take it and plug in a 0 for the missing term, a 0x. That means there's nothing there. That's okay. Okay, we're still in business. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing. We're going to take and do first times last. There we go. That's going to leave me with a negative 100. Go ahead and t-chart that out. Remember, if it's a negative, that means it's positive, negative. If it were a positive 100, my only two choices would be a positive, positive, or a negative, negative. Now, ours is negative, so I'm going to write the factors of 100, which are going to be 1 and 100. Next would be 2 and 50. 3 will not work, but 4 and 25 will work. And then the next is going to be 5 and 20. Next, 6 will not work, 7 will not work, 8, 9, but 10 will work, 10 times 10. So at this point, I need a negative 0. That means one of my numbers is positive and one is negative. So go ahead and we think about the big number being the negative, which is fine. I need to add my numbers up. I'm trying to get 0 when I add these up. So I'm going to go start adding. I'm going to get negative 99. Nope, not 0. I'm going to get negative 48. Not 0. I get negative 21, still not 0. Next, I'm going to get negative 15, still not 0. Oh, wait, 0. Here we go. These are my two numbers. I'm going to go ahead back over here. Keep the first number, keep the last number, and in the middle, I now write negative 10x plus 10x. Now remember, it doesn't matter which one you write first, as long as the two are in the middle. Go ahead and T-chart myself down, and I'm ready to find my GCF. GCF between 4 and 10 is going to be 2. They both have an x in common. Go to the right-hand side, my GCF. Now, this is a positive 10, so I'm not going to take out a negative. My GCF on this particular one is going to be a 5. So I'm going to go ahead down here, put those two numbers in my first parentheses. And now I'm ready to divide. 4x squared divided by 2x leaves me with 2x. Remember, there will be 1x left over. And negative 10 divided by positive 2 is going to be a negative 5. No x's left over. Check it on the right-hand side. 10 divided by 5 is 2 with 1x left over. And negative 25 divided by 5 is negative 5. You just factored by grouping a special case where there was no 0, where there was no term in the middle. So we had to put a 0x to hold our spot so we can find the two values that make 0x in the middle. Good luck. If you need any help, you know you have my number, you have Ms. Brown's number, please give us a call. We can FaceTime or Google Hangout to figure out what your issues may be. See you later.